In his book, Confessions of a Public Speaker, the author Scott Berkun says that most people fear public speaking, and the ones who claim that they do not fear it are liars. He says that people who claim to not be scared of the stage are not intentionally lying, but the possibility of them not feeling afraid to go in front of 50, 100, or even 1,000 people is simply a biological response. We feel it because we fear the judgment of other people, and if we do a bad job, we feel that they might shun us away to some degree. And that's a legitimate fear. And when we go in front of so many eyes, so much judgment is possibly upon us that our minds enter this fight or flight response. And our brain releases so much adrenaline that it increases our heart rate and causes us to either physically shiver or shiver through our voice. And the book goes on to say that the best thing that we can do to avoid this is to first start by acknowledging this fear. And we don't need to overcome it or that it's even possible to do so, but we need to learn how to manage it. And the most basic way to manage this fear is by getting more familiar with the stage. That's obvious. The more we go on stage, the more we practice, the better we become at this particular skill. But how do we start creating a mindset that helps us reduce this nervousness and hence helps us reduce our physical response of shivering when we go on stage? In another wonderful book on public speaking called Speak to Win, the author Tracy says that we fear the audience's judgment, but what we don't realize is that the audience really wants us to succeed. Think about it. When we go for a presentation, we don't really want the speaker to be boring or for them to screw up. We want it to be a good presentation so that we can enjoy that speech and learn something from it. I would take that a step further and say that more than just understanding that the audience is rooting for us, we need to design our speech and our thinking for the audience and not for the speaker. We're so worried about how we might come across, whether we look calm on stage, whether we are applying the correct techniques of speaking in front of crowds, whether we are not forgetting our lines, whether our slides are designed perfectly. And we often forget that the simplest way to judge the success or failure of a speech is to know whether or not the audience finally took away the idea that we were trying to communicate. Did we want them to buy something? Did we want them to adopt an idea? Did we want them to think in a certain way? And how many of them really did that after the speech was done? And if we start thinking that way in a more audience-centric manner, we reduce the pressure on us to screw up a line or two, to forget something on stage, to not have the most perfectly designed slides or the best body language. And that's what public speaking is about. And yes, this is easier said than done, but the application of this mindset can go a long way in helping us reduce our primal response of shivering and actually speak something that will be helpful for the audience. And on a much shorter term level, we can do things like having a good night's sleep, constantly hydrating ourselves even when we're on stage. So to have a bottle with us while we're speaking and to eat something before we go on stage are all simple things that we can do to reduce our primal response and be a little more comfortable on stage. And it's very important to understand that even if we do feel nervous, how do we appear to not feel that way? We've created an entire video on this topic of how we can appear to not be nervous even if we are, which I highly recommend you check out right here.